What is going on here?
Now, joining us to give us his thoughts on all things NFTs as well as Bitcoin's latest surges, Anthony Papagliano. Bitcoin is getting a bounce. The price climbing back towards its all-time high, topping $1 trillion in value again.
The Bitcoin bulls are back.
Yeah.
Look, yesterday CME Bitcoin futures, $1.2 billion in volume. A lot of these exchanges are seeing all-time highs in volume, and I think that we've seen the bottom of the bear market.
But why?
I heard your NFT conversation right before this, but Bitcoin, separate crypto conversation. Very interesting, though. Bitcoin is climbing again today, though, as investors' appetite for growth in tech stocks.
In an effort to make the digital currency more accessible to investors, our next guest launched a Bitcoin fund. Joining us right now is Greg King. He's the CEO of Osprey Funds. Good morning to you, Greg. Let's talk about where Bitcoin is headed, and This is something I think a lot of people are trying to get their heads around. It's become a market almost overnight. How do you think about it? Also, let's talk about some of the risks, because I think that people are trying to understand where we really are, what the upside looks like, and frankly, also what the downside looks like.
Mr. Wonderful thinks it's worthless.
Well,
He called it garbage this morning.
I want to explore the idea. I did say that.
Bitcoin is up for the 7th straight day this week. That's the longest winning streak of the year so far. It's above 57,000 today, getting closer to that all-time high of 58,000 hit last month.
Yeah, look, I think what we're finding is that intellectual property previously had no free market. There was no price discovery for intellectual property. So whether it's NBA Top Shot, whether it's this art or something else, when art and intellectual property and technology meet in a free market, we're going to do that price discovery. And so we're seeing that probably, whether it's the NBA or these artists, they were drastically undervaluing that intellectual property. And so I don't know where it's going to go, but it's fascinating to watch. And we're seeing multiple pieces, 7, 8 figures. And so I think that, this is a pretty healthy, lots of volume market. And so it's pretty cool to watch.
By default, I imagine, have to be bullish on this. So give us the upside take, but also if you could give us an honest take on what you think the downside looks like in the near term, at least.
I want to explore the idea that there is nothing here except raw speculation. No different than when I go to Las Vegas and put my money on black or red on a roulette wheel, because where is the intrinsic value inherent in deploying real capital, let's talk real money here, and putting it into Bitcoin as a storage of value? I get gold. For 2,000 years, including the Romans, they saw value in owning that as an asset class. Tell me why this, which is basically a digital game, that's the way I look at it, has any intrinsic value.
And despite some muted CPI data this week, some economists do worry that more stimulus could overheat the economy, and a weaker U.S. dollar could make Bitcoin, which isn't tied to a central bank, more attractive.
When people actually put real money into this, they make no interest, they can't pay their taxes with it, the regulators don't like it, which is always a problem for compliance. And where's the long-term value? Just this idea that they're going to cut the number of units in half, that's such a scam. Like, that's just totally BS.
And how much do you think about the what I call fully digital universe versus the physical collectible universe? I'm thinking of baseball cards, basketball cards, and the like, but that are now getting authenticated in a digital universe that get tied together. What do you think about the distinction of those?
Yeah, so you're right. We remain bullish. I mean, we think Bitcoin is a disruptive technology that's erupted on the world scene. It's kind of taken people by surprise, even though it's 12, 13 years old at this point. People are still coming to realize just how powerful it could potentially be.
So I would say 2 things. One is it's disruptive technology. So if you look at it from a technology standpoint.
But that also has an odor of BS to it.
Look, everything that's new seems different, right, in the beginning. And I think what you've got to realize is with Bitcoin specifically, money is a belief system. So the US dollar, the only reason why you and I use it is because we believe it has value. So if I give you $1, you give me a good or service in exchange. Right. We believe that it has value.
Yeah, I think that what we're watching is this technology allows certain things to happen that can't happen in the physical world. So for example, if you take, let's say, a sports team or an artist, they usually have a primary sale. They sell their asset one time, and then there's these massive secondary markets where these things are trading hands 2, 3, 5, 10 times.
And so what we have is an S-curve of adoption that you're familiar with from technology. So since Bitcoin crossed 20,000 in November last year, we're trading up around 55,000. when you look historically at previous periods where it put in an all-time high and kept that high for 100, 200 days or more, once that high is crossed, it goes up in general 900%.
Bitcoin has value because two people who exchange it believe it has that value.
The other big bull case, institutional investors getting in. This week, we had Goldman Sachs president and COO saying that the bank is exploring how to meet rising Bitcoin demand from its customers while still staying on the right side of regulation.
Now what we're watching is that basically whether it's the sports team or the artist, they can actually get a royalty. It's baked into the technology where they can continue to get paid every single time that their asset trades hands.
In terms of those rallies. Now, that seems unbelievable, but you have to understand that this technology is being adopted on a global basis, and the amount of demand potentially for what it's providing is huge.
But despite being called a safe haven asset, Bitcoin is still a speculative and volatile investment. It crashed to $43,000 just a couple weeks ago.
And what we're seeing is the volume, right? Look at people using it. That's ultimately what matters.
All the other crypto crap. There's lots of other coins.
I believe Bitcoin is the king and is going to stay the king for a very long time.
So
we're looking at this as a long-term rally, say a year or two, and the consolidations you're seeing, I think, are very healthy.
I think that that's a really interesting kind of new world that we're watching play out. And then in terms of the collectible market, I think what you're going to see is you're going to see this black and white world really start to gray. Why is it that there's only physical pieces or just digital pieces? What happens when we start to put some of this stuff together and you can actually buy something that's tied together?
But those high growth trades are back in favor this week after that steep sell-off. John, back to you.
I'm not sure where it goes, but I think that there's a lot of really smart people working on this. And whenever intellectual capital flows like this, I think that you as an investor have to pay attention.
So near term, I mean, you've seen a couple 20, 30% consolidations, which in stock market investing or something like that is just wild. But this is Bitcoin, and things are happening at a different pace. And, it's up 175%. So a 20, 30% correction is to be expected.
I guess, Andrew, you have helped me with your Michael Jordan card because, I mean, if it's a card, a physical piece of cardboard in a box in your attic, but somehow it has value, I don't think it's that great a leap to make that it could be on a blockchain where there's only, I mean, other people have that same card, Andrew, but yours is still worth a lot.
Yes, they do.
Even though there's more than one.
What do you think the rational high point is for this? Meaning, if we're having this conversation 5 years from now, are you somebody who says that this is a $200,000 token situation? You think there's $500,000? I mean, but there, at some point, you'd argue, like gold, it would have to basically stabilize at some general price, no?
Yeah, people have forgotten, I guess, a couple years ago where it crashed pretty severely, a lot more than that, too. So, Kate, with the frenzy around all things blockchain and crypto, NFTs, et cetera, what's going on with Ethereum? Because so many different applications of blockchain, crypto are built on top of that.
So if suddenly it's digital and it's blockchain, so you can't, people have the ledger, everybody knows whether it's real or not, distributed ledger.
Agreed. Totally agreed. I think it will stabilize. At some point, it'll become boring. I think we're a long ways from that, probably a decade or more.
I taught a class at Harvard 18 months ago that young people in that class challenged me. I put $100 into something called Coinbase, which is a wallet thing. And
you buy Bitcoin?
I bought it all. I bought all the crypto crap. I put $100 in. It's now worth 30.
30.
That's a 70% loss on my crypto crap.
It doesn't seem like that big of a leap of faith to understand that could have value too, does it? I mean, who cares about your dusted off old box up in your attic? I mean, I'd almost rather have it digitally. I will say this.
And so you have this debate around its position vis-a-vis gold. I think that it can become a digital substitute for gold. It's on its way to doing that.
Now, I bought them all. I think that really sucks. And I think people should understand today that the hot digital is Bitcoin. Tomorrow it could be whatever, right?
Again, I think that Bitcoin, the reason why Bitcoin is getting so much attention, it's the best performing asset in the last decade.
That's a great question. The buzz around NFTs that you guys were talking about is helping Ether. That's the second largest cryptocurrency. In the case of Beeple, that $69 million NFT, that was bought with Ethereum. So the thought here is that if people are paying for NFTs with Ethereum, even a 250-year-old auction house, you had Christie's accepting Ethereum, that's sort of seen as a legitimizing moment for that cryptocurrency. And you have the speculative frenzy still going on. People that feel like they may have missed out on the Bitcoin rally are sort of looking to the next big thing. So that cryptocurrency has more than doubled this year.
I will say this, and I have to get this card graded at this point.
Yeah, it's even better digital because it's easier to do, I think, because it's.
But the point is, but in the digital universe, there's one version of it, and it's in mint. It's always in mint condition, right?
And then you have to ask yourself, does it become sort of the same size as gold, bigger than gold, et cetera? You just mentioned it hit $1 trillion. Gold is roughly 10. You know, if they pull even with each other, what does that mean? Does gold come down? Does Bitcoin come all the way up?
Right, it's drastically outperformed S&P, every other kind of financial asset that's out there. And the second thing is the institutions are coming in because Bitcoin is actually a better store of value. It's more transparent and more secure. So regulators, they actually like Bitcoin in the sense of law enforcement can track criminal activity, right? Every single transaction is done on a public ledger.
You can see the law enforcement loves Bitcoin.
Yeah, I wonder, are people just really parking money in Ethereum, though? Or are they quickly getting dollars into Ethereum, buying that, and then that's it? I don't know. We'll see. Kate, thank you.
If we wait 5-10 years, there's no doubt in my mind that tweet would sell for $10+ million, right? It's just more and more people on the internet now have access. You don't have to go to an art auction. You don't have to physically be there to buy something. You can simply go on the internet anywhere in the world with an internet connection, and you can bid for owning these assets.
There are people out there that say it's going to be much bigger than gold over time. Certainly the generations behind me anyways, I think like Bitcoin a lot better than they do gold.
I've interviewed a DA agent who came on, and they would love for criminals to use Bitcoin over US dollars and cash.
Yeah, no, those are good questions. I think the governmental point has been made over and over, and as time passes, it just feels like to me that governments generally are accepting Bitcoin. And in fact, you know, if we had this discussion a few years back, people would be talking about the anonymity and the use of Bitcoin for nefarious purposes. People are starting to understand it's actually very traceable.
Right, it's much more traceable. And so what law enforcement is saying is they want these digital currencies used, Bitcoin specifically, because of the public nature of the transactions, easier to track the criminal activity.
After the fact.
After the fact, yeah, of course. Well, US dollars, you can't track it before or after.
Last time this had a big run up to 20,000 and people started talking about assets with it, the SEC was handing out subpoenas like birthday cards.